Welcome to Hull and Estates and Succession Planning, a series of podcasts hosted by Ian Hull and Susanna Popovic-Montag. The podcast you are listening to will provide information and insights into estate planning in Canada. From the offices of Hull & Hull in Toronto, here are Ian and Susanna.
Hi, and welcome to Hull and Estates and Succession Planning. My name's Ian Hull, and I'm doing a solo performance today on our video podcast without my colleague Susanna Popovic-Montag, who's tied up. Today, I want to talk about a topic that Susanna and I actually had the privilege of presenting at the 2011 Ontario Tax Conference here in Toronto. We were asked to come to speak to tax practitioners, essentially chartered accountants and the like, and people in the certified general accountants and the like in terms of the accounting world. And we were asked to speak about wills and non-tax issues relating to estate planning. A broad topic, and one that was, I think in many respects there's a wide variety that we could have covered. We focused on a couple of things that we thought was helpful to what I would call the accounting colleagues that we work with. And the first thing we talked a little bit about was a reminder of the special nature of married spouse claims. We talked a little bit about the nature of common law spouse claims, so that the accounting community could have a deeper understanding of what happens on death to the surviving spouse, both in the context of a married spouse and in the context of a common law spouse. This next thing we moved on to and sort of had a general discussion about was this idea of disclosure and the careful disclosure rules that exist with regard to lawyers when we create estate planning documents, which spills over into the accounting community. And I say that because we've in previous podcasts talked about some recent decisions where the court helped give some further guidance as to what a lawyer does with his or her wills, original wills, with his or her planning documents that are created in the file and exist as a result of instructions. What on death do we do with those documents? Well, the same inquiries are being made of accountants and in any of the financial planning community, and they too have to struggle with the question of what is the nature of the disclosure that they can carefully give. And we talked a lot about the fact that, like lawyers, probably that community is best to sit back and wait for court orders to tell them to release these documents so that there is some protection there. We left it with some vagueness to it because we're not in that world of accounting world, and the law behind that is very different in terms of the expectations of the court. But we also left it a bit vague because I think that, Susanna and I both think that there's a growing trend towards, obviously, that in our world, privacy and careful control over personal documents, both during lifetime and on death. So we didn't want to forget that struggle, and we broke that theme down a bit. The other issue that we really enjoyed talking about and drilled down a bit on was the whole question of trustees and what are the roles of a trustee, what are some of the duties of a trustee, and more importantly, what are the expectations of the clients in regard to taking on that role, and how can chartered accountants and certified general accountants and anyone in the accounting and the financial advisory world assist their clients, sort of add some value to the process by drilling down and looking at those specific trustee roles, like the duty of confidentiality, the duty to keep proper records. How can they assist? And the obvious one is to keep proper records is a cornerstone of the expertise that the accounting community has and can add tremendous value to the process, added value to the process of the client's role as a trustee, and or where an accountant takes on the role as a trustee. Because there is a very different world of fiduciary accounting. It is simply not the same world that accountants are used to, with retained earnings and summaries and breakdowns of financial statements that just don't apply to the fiduciary accounting world. So we had a nice discussion about that, and an interesting discussion. Where we finished off was to leave the accounting community with the thought of the concept that they play a fundamental role and an important role in the process of communicating the deceased estate plan. they are in every respect almost always a part of, and sometimes on the front line of any estate plan. And they are in a position, both Suzanne and I feel, to very much influence the clients into talking about the estate plan. And we're big proponents of that. We talk about that in many of our podcasts. So we spent some time with this accounting community in particular to talk a little bit about what are some of the steps available to put their expertise, the numbers people's expertise, into the communication process. And in our view, a process that is vital, fundamental, and cannot be it's not only vital, but cannot be forgotten, in our view, by this important core element of any estate plan, that being the accounting aspect of it and their role in it. So we talked a little bit about our processes that we've used, some of the successes and failures of that process, and made sure that really at the end of the day, we embraced the idea that, and we believe this very strongly, that this allied professional community, this allied association of advisors work together to ultimately get the best estate plan in terms of the concepts and the tax concepts, in terms of its being written properly and drafted properly in the will by the lawyers, and then finally the combination of the lawyers and the accountants stepping in and saying, hey, this is what's happening. Shouldn't we tell someone? And shouldn't we explain to someone in a meaningful way how that should or should not occur? So it was that sort of discussion, another circular discussion, got some great feedback on, and really enjoyed the opportunity, met some great people, and it's a fantastic conference with tremendous speakers at it. So this isn't all about talking about all the conferences we're doing. It's more importantly is what we're learning at these conferences from our direct feedback that we're getting from the participants, and reporting back to those who are watching about some of the trends and some of the issues that arise out of those discussions. So thank you very much for joining us today. Again, apologize for a no Susanna showing today, but we will see her soon, no doubt, and I appreciate your attention to this podcast and look forward to our next one. Thank you.
You have been listening to Hull and Estates and Succession Planning by Ian Hull and Susanna Popovic-Montag. The podcast that you have been listening to has been provided as an information service. It is a summary of current issues in estates and estate planning. It is not legal advice, and you are reminded to always speak with a legal professional regarding your specific circumstance. To listen to other Hull and Hull podcasts or leave any questions or comments, please visit our website at hullestatemediation.com.